The sky above the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico was clear that night. Dr. Mark Wilson adjusted his glasses as he stared at the computer screen, his eyes widening with each passing second. The strange signal pattern had appeared 3 nights in a row now, too consistent to be random noise, too complex to be from any known celestial body. "Hey, Bill, take a look at this," Mark called to his colleague who was dozing in a chair nearby. Bill rubbed his eyes and shuffled over. "What am I looking at?" "I'm not entirely sure," Mark replied, pointing to the rhythmic pulses on the screen. "But whatever it is, it's not natural. These patterns show signs of intelligence." Within 48 hours, observatories around the world confirmed Mark's findings. The signal originated from a region of space near the Andromeda Galaxy, far beyond where humanity had ever detected alien communications before. Teams of cryptographers worked day and night to decode the message. 1 week later, in a secure underground facility beneath Washington, D.C., Dr. James Reed stood before a panel of military officials and government leaders. At 45, James had spent his career studying theoretical physics and developing defense systems that most people didn't know existed. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steadied despite the weight of his news. "We've decoded the signal." He pressed a button, and a series of images appeared on the large screen behind him. The room fell silent as the officials looked at charts, diagrams, and what appeared to be footage of a dark, shifting mass consuming an entire star system. "What exactly are we looking at, Dr. Reed?" asked General Harris, her face pale in the blue light of the screen. "A warning," James replied simply. This message was sent by a civilization approximately 2.3 million light-years away. They were documenting the approach and effects of what they called the darkness, a phenomenon that appears to consume energy at all levels, from light to nuclear. According to their calculations, this darkness moves through space, leaving nothing behind. "And how does this concern Earth?" asked a skeptical senator. James tapped his tablet, bringing up a new image, a star chart with a red line tracing a path across galaxies. Based on the trajectory they provided, and accounting for the time it took this message to reach us, the darkness will reach our galaxy within 50 years. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. "Dr. Reed," the president spoke for the first time, "what do you suggest we do with this information?" "We need to warn others," James said firmly. "We know there are other civilizations out there. The Centauri Confederation made contact 3 years ago. The trading posts near Jupiter have representatives from at least 12 different species. We should share this information immediately." 2 months later, Earth's representatives stood before the Galactic Council, an assembly of the oldest and most advanced civilizations in the charted universe. The grand chamber on the neutral planet of Nexus was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, many attending via holographic projection. Earth's ambassador, David Thompson, presented the evidence with James at his side. They showed the signal, the decoded warning, and Earth's own calculations about the threat. When they finished, the chamber remained silent until High Counselor Zorix, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin, rose from his seat. "Humans," he began, his translated voice carrying a tone of condescension, "while we appreciate your concern, your species has been part of the galactic community for less than a decade. Your understanding of cosmic phenomena is limited at best." Another counselor, a gaseous entity contained within a floating orb, pulsed bright orange. "The phenomenon you describe defies the laws of physics as understood by civilizations that have studied the universe for millions of years." "But the evidence," James tried to interject. "Is likely a misinterpretation," Zorix cut him off. "Perhaps a stellar nursery or a perfectly natural gravitational anomaly that your primitive instruments failed to correctly identify." David's face reddened, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. "We respectfully request that the Council at least investigate. The Council's resources are allocated to actual threats," Ambassador Zorix stated firmly. "Not doomsday prophecies from newcomers who barely understand how to travel between their own planets." As Earth's representatives left the chamber, James turned to David, his expression grim. "They're not going to help us, are they?" David shook his head. "No. We're on our own." Back on Earth, James stood before a different council, Earth's Unified Defense Committee. "The Galactic Council has dismissed our warning," he informed them. "We need to prepare on our own." General Harris, who had supported James from the beginning, nodded. "What do you need?" "Everything," James replied. "Funding, resources, the best minds from every field. I have ideas for defensive technologies, but they're theoretical at best. We need to make them real." "You'll have it," the general promised. Operation Lighthouse begins today. In the following months, hidden facilities were constructed in remote locations around the globe and beyond, research stations on Mars, testing grounds in the asteroid belt. The brightest scientists and engineers were quietly recruited. In his primary lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, James worked tirelessly. Holographic displays showed simulations of the darkness and potential countermeasures. Most failed, but each failure brought new insights. Late one night, as James was reviewing test results, a young physicist named Anna knocked on his open door. "Dr. Reed? I think I found something." She hurried to his desk and placed a tablet in front of him. "We've been approaching this all wrong. We can't stop it or destroy it, but we might be able to redirect it." James studied her calculations, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of hope. This could work. We'd need to create a dimensional anchor point, something that could bend spacetime itself. "Exactly," Anna nodded eagerly. "A quantum fold that creates a pocket universe, essentially a trap." James smiled slightly. "Get some rest, Anna. Tomorrow, we start building humanity's last hope." As Earth secretly prepared for a threat that might arrive within decades, the rest of the galaxy continued as normal, oblivious to the warning they had so casually dismissed. They would remember these days with bitter regret in the years to come. The Watchers had always prided themselves on being among the universe's most advanced observers. Their crystalline ships, nearly invisible against the backdrop of space, monitored cosmic events from safe distances. For thousands of years, they had documented the rise and fall of civilizations without interference. Commander Lorne stood on the bridge of the observation vessel Eternally, watching as the sensors tracked an unusual phenomenon at the edge of their territory. What had begun as a small dark spot had grown over the past month, consuming light and matter alike. "Analysis complete, Commander," reported Officer Mira, her translucent fingers dancing over the control panel. "It's unlike anything in our records. It appears to be consuming energy at its most fundamental level." Lorne's inner membranes flickered with concern, the Watcher equivalent of a frown. "Send a probe closer. We need better readings." The probe never returned data. One moment it was transmitting, the next, nothing. "Deploy the defense fleet," Lorne ordered, a rare command for the typically non-interventionist Watchers. "And send warnings to all nearby systems." But it was already too late. The darkness expanded exponentially, engulfing Watcher outposts one by one. Their homeworld, Crystallis, had less than 3 days to prepare before the void reached them. In a desperate bid for survival, Lorne and a small fleet of escape vessels fled, carrying barely a tenth of their population. As they watched their world disappear into nothingness, a memory surfaced in Lorne's consciousness, a warning, delivered years ago by a young species called humans. A warning they had dismissed. "Set course for Earth," Lorne commanded quietly. Tom Miller was reviewing diplomatic briefs when the alert came through. As Deputy Secretary for Extraterrestrial Relations, he'd grown accustomed to surprise visits, but the approaching Watcher fleet was unprecedented. "They're requesting emergency sanctuary," his assistant explained. "Their communications mentioned something called the Darkness. Tom felt his blood run cold. Every diplomat knew about the warning, Earth's failed attempt to alert the galaxy to an approaching threat years ago. When the Watcher delegation arrived at the lunar base, Tom was shocked by their appearance. Known for their pristine crystalline forms, these Watchers were dulled, cracked, with visible signs of trauma. "We should have listened," Commander Lorne said without preamble. The humans were right. In the briefing that followed, Lorne shared recordings of the darkness consuming their world. The footage matched exactly what Earth had warned about years before. "Our people need refuge," Lorne concluded. "And the galaxy needs your help." Tom excused himself to consult with Earth's leadership. The discussion was tense. These were the same aliens who had once mocked humanity's warning. "They refuse to help us," the defense secretary argued. "Why should we help them?" Tom took a deep breath. "Because this isn't about them. It's about all of us. The threat is real, and it's coming. If we turn them away, we're no better than they were." After hours of debate, Earth made its decision. Tom returned to the lunar conference room where the Watchers waited. "Earth will grant your people sanctuary," he announced. "And we will share what we know about the darkness. But from this moment forward, we stand as equals or not at all." Lorne's crystalline form seemed to lighten slightly. "Equals," the commander agreed. "And perhaps, if we are fortunate, friends." As the Watcher refugees were settled in a prepared facility on Mars, Tom looked out at the stars and wondered how many other civilizations would soon be seeking Earth's help, and how prepared humanity truly was for what was coming. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from over 200 species gathered for an emergency session. The massive, dome-shaped chamber, normally a place of measured debate and careful diplomacy, now crackled with fear and urgency. Maria Delgado, Earth's chief ambassador, stood tall despite being physically shorter than most delegates present. At 54, she had the steady nerves of someone who had spent decades in high-stakes negotiations. Today would test those nerves like never before. "The Council recognizes Earth's representative," announced High Counselor Zorix, his once condescending tone now replaced with something closer to desperation. News of the Watcher's destruction had spread rapidly, forcing the Council to acknowledge the threat they had dismissed years ago. Maria approached the central podium, her steps measured and unhurried. The room fell silent. 7 years ago, she began, her voice clear and unwavering, Earth came before this council with a warning. "We were dismissed as primitive, our evidence rejected, our concerns mocked." She paused, letting the uncomfortable truth hang in the air. "Today, I stand before you not to say, 'We told you so,' but to offer humanity's help." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The darkness has consumed 3 systems already. The Watchers, once among the most advanced observers in our galaxy, now exist only as refugees under Earth's protection. Time is short, and blame serves no purpose. What matters now is survival. A representative from the Vorn Collective, insectoid beings known for their logical approach, spoke up. "What exactly does Earth offer? Your technology is centuries behind most council races." Maria smiled slightly. "Is it?" With a gesture, she activated a holographic display showing schematics of Earth's defense systems, quantum shields, dimensional anchors, and energy disruption weapons. Technologies that no one knew humans possessed. Gasps and exclamations filled the chamber. While the council dismissed our warning, Maria continued, "Earth prepared. For 7 years, we have dedicated our resources to developing countermeasures. We don't claim to have all the answers, but we have more than you might expect from primitives." The Arcturian delegate leaned forward. "Why would you share these advances with those who refuse to help you?" "Because facing extinction clarifies one's priorities," Maria replied simply. "Earth proposes an alliance, not under the Council's authority, but as equals. We will share our defensive technology. In return, we require resource commitments and full cooperation. High Counselor Zorix's iridescent skin darkened with what might have been shame. Earth's conditions are reasonable. The Council will comply. As discussions of specific contributions began, the Watcher Commander Lorne approached Maria privately. Your people could have demanded much more, Lorne observed. Maria watched the frantic negotiations unfolding across the chamber. Power plays are a luxury we can't afford right now. Besides, she added with a hint of steel in her voice, once this crisis passes, the galaxy will remember who extended a hand when it mattered, and who turned away. As the emergency session concluded, the first official Galactic Defense Alliance was formed, with Earth, the once dismissed newcomer, at its center. The universe was beginning to learn a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The alien outpost at Proxima Centauri had served as a trading hub for centuries before humans ever reached the stars. Now it was the front line. Sensors had detected the darkness approaching the system 3 days earlier. The newly formed alliance deployed their combined fleet as a test of their hastily integrated forces. Earth contributed 30 warships, fewer than most alien contingents, but their vessels were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Commander Jack Foster stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiant, Earth's flagship. At 42, he had the weathered look of someone who had spent most of his life in space. His crew, a mix of humans and alien specialists, worked with practiced efficiency. Darkness at the edge of detection range, reported his second-in-command. Estimated 19 minutes until contact. Jack nodded, opening a channel to the combined fleet. All vessels, maintain formation. Remember your training. We've simulated this a dozen times. What the simulations hadn't prepared them for was the bone-deep chill that swept through the ships as the darkness approached, an unexplainable cold that seemed to seep into the mind itself. Energy readings dropping across all systems, reported the Krell engineer, his scaled hands moving rapidly across the controls. It's draining power faster than expected. Jack made a quick decision. Execute Maneuver Sunfall. All ships, pull back to secondary positions. The Earth vessels moved in perfect coordination while the alien ships struggled to follow the unexpected command. The delay saved lives. As the darkness surged forward, it engulfed the area where the fleet had initially been positioned. They're targeting our power signatures, Jack realized. Switch to pulse drives. Short bursts only. The human ships immediately adapted, their engines firing in staggered, unpredictable patterns. Gradually, the alien vessels followed their example. Sir, called the weapons officer, dimensional anchors are charged and ready. Jack took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. Earth's secret weapon was about to be tested in actual combat. Target the center mass and deploy on my mark, he ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. From the Earth vessels, strange devices launched toward the darkness. Upon contact, they created localized distortions, small pockets where spacetime itself folded inward, pulling portions of the void into contained bubbles. For the first time, the darkness seemed to react, pulling back from the dimensional distortions. It's working, someone shouted. Stay focused, Jack cautioned. Second wave, prepare to. His words cut off as a tendril of darkness shot through the fleet, completely destroying 3 alien cruisers. The Defiant shuddered as energy levels plummeted. Reroute all non-essential power to the shields, Jack commanded. And get me a direct line to that Thalassian battleship, they're in the wrong position. For 6 grueling hours, the battle raged. The fleet lost 17 ships, fewer than expected but still a devastating blow. Eventually, the combined forces managed to drive the darkness back, forcing it to retreat rather than advance. As the battered fleet regrouped, messages of thanks flooded Earth channels. The aliens had witnessed human ingenuity firsthand, and for the first time since the crisis began, the galaxy dared to hope. The war room deep beneath Geneva buzzed with activity as representatives from 24 species gathered around a massive holographic display. The three-dimensional map showed the current position of the darkness and its projected path through populated systems. Dr. James Reed looked older than his years now. 7 years of preparation followed by 3 months of actual war had left their mark. Yet his eyes remained sharp as he addressed the gathered leaders. The dimensional anchors have proven effective at containing small portions of the darkness, but they're not a permanent solution, he explained. Each anchor fails after approximately 72 hours, releasing whatever it contained. Then we build more anchors, suggested the Arcturian admiral. James shook his head. We're facing a resource problem. Each anchor requires rare materials that we're consuming faster than we can mine or synthesize. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their current strategy was merely delaying defeat, not preventing it. There is another option, James continued. He gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show a complex device. For the past 7 years, I've been leading a project to develop what we call the Rift Seal. Lisa Chen, James's chief researcher, stepped forward. At 36, she had become one of Earth's leading experts on interdimensional physics. Our analysis suggests the darkness isn't native to our universe. It's entering through a dimensional rift, essentially a tear in reality. She manipulated the display, zooming in on the heart of the expanding darkness. Here. The source of the incursion. The Rift Seal is designed to close this breach, James explained. Permanently. The Watcher Commander Lawrence crystalline form dimmed with concern. You propose to reach the center of the darkness? Impossible. Nothing survives contact with its core. Not with conventional shielding, Lisa agreed. But we've developed a new approach. She displayed schematics for a modified ship. This vessel will be equipped with a quantum isolation field, essentially creating its own pocket of reality that the darkness cannot directly interact with. The Krell representative clicked his mandibles skeptically. The power requirements would be extraordinary. Yes, James acknowledged. We would need to harvest energy from a dying star, channel it directly into the ship's systems. And who would crew such a vessel? Asked High Counselor Zorix. It would be a one-way journey. James and Lisa exchanged glances. I will go, James said simply. As will I, Lisa added. We understand the technology better than anyone. Debate erupted, with various representatives arguing that their species should be represented on the mission, or that the plan was too risky, or that alternative approaches should be explored. Through it all, James stood quietly, watching the holographic display show simulations of the darkness consuming one system after another. When the arguments reached a crescendo, he raised his hand, and surprisingly, the room fell silent. Every hour we debate, another world dies, he said quietly. We don't have time for alternatives. This is our best chance, perhaps our only chance. The room grew still as the truth of his words sank in. Very well, Zorix conceded. The Council authorizes Operation Rift Seal. May your gods be with you, humans. For all our sakes. The combined fleet of the Galactic Defense Alliance assembled at the edge of the Horsehead Nebula, the largest gathering of ships in recorded history. Over 700 vessels from 26 species formed a protective ring around the modified Earth vessel Prometheus. The Prometheus didn't look impressive compared to the massive alien dreadnoughts. Its hull was matte black, absorbing rather than reflecting light, with strange geometrical patterns etched across its surface, quantum circuitry designed to maintain the isolation field. Inside the ship's command center, James and Lisa made final preparations alongside their small, volunteer crew of 12, 8 humans and 4 aliens with specialized knowledge crucial to the mission. Quantum isolation field at full capacity, Lisa reported, checking the glowing blue displays. Rift Seal device is primed and stable. James nodded, his expression solemn. Open a channel to the fleet. On screens throughout hundreds of ships, James's face appeared. This is Dr. Reed of the Prometheus. We're ready to proceed with Operation Rift Seal. The fleet should maintain position at the perimeter and engage only if the darkness attempts to expand during our approach. Admiral Robert Johnson of Earth's forces responded, "Understood, Prometheus. We'll keep them busy. Good hunting." The Prometheus moved forward, leaving the protective formation behind. As it approached the edge of the darkness, sensors from the fleet recorded the strange phenomenon. The isolation field glowed faintly blue against the absolute black of their enemy. "Field holding steady," Lisa announced as they crossed the boundary. "We're inside." The view screens showed nothing but darkness outside, but internal sensors mapped the void around them, creating a ghostly outline of their surroundings. 15 minutes to the calculated rift location, the navigation officer reported. For a while, they progressed smoothly, the ship's specialized sensors guiding them deeper. Then, without warning, the Prometheus shuddered violently. "It's testing the field," Lisa shouted over the alarm. "Power fluctuations across all systems." James steadied himself against a console. "Divert emergency power to the isolation circuits. We need to hold it together just long enough." Outside, the fleet watched in horror as tendrils of darkness wrapped around the barely visible outline of the Prometheus. "They're being attacked," Admiral Johnson reported. "We need to create a diversion." Robert's executive officer looked alarmed. "Sir, if we engage, we risk losing a third of the fleet." "If they fail, we lose everything," Robert replied grimly. "All ships, attack pattern Delta. Focus fire on the eastern quadrant, draw its attention." Across the fleet, officers acknowledged the order, though many exchanged solemn glances, knowing what it meant. Robert's ship, the Valiant, led the charge, firing its dimensional anchors directly into the densest part of the darkness. Other ships followed, creating a massive disturbance. Inside the Prometheus, the attacks registered on their sensors. "The fleet is engaging," someone reported. "They're drawing part of it away from us." James watched the tactical display with a mixture of gratitude and grief. "Make it count. Push to maximum speed." As the Prometheus surged forward, the Valiant and 17 other ships were enveloped by the darkness, disappearing from sensors. "We've reached the coordinates," Lisa announced, her voice steady despite everything. "Deploying the rift seal now." With trembling hands, James activated the final sequence. "For Earth. For everyone." A blinding flash of light erupted from the heart of the darkness, visible across thousands of light years. For one breathtaking moment, every star seemed to dim as energy was pulled toward the activated rift seal. Then, silence. On the bridge of what remained of Earth's fleet, officers stared at their sensors in disbelief. "The darkness, it's contracting," reported a young lieutenant, her voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Johnson, who had assumed command after Robert's sacrifice, leaned forward. "Any sign of the Prometheus?" The communications officer shook his head. "No signals, sir. They're gone." Across the galaxy, beings of all species watched as the darkness that had threatened to consume everything folded in upon itself, collapsing into an ever smaller point until it vanished entirely. Where once there had been an expanding void of nothingness, now stars shone unobstructed. The rift seal had worked. The dimensional tear was closed. In the weeks that followed, scout ships cautiously investigated the region. They found nothing of the Prometheus or its brave crew. Just empty space where the heart of darkness had been. Remnants of the void, small pockets that had been cut off from their source, were systematically hunted down and contained, no longer able to grow or spread. 60 days after the final battle, representatives from every spacefaring civilization gathered on Earth, a planet many had never visited before, despite its pivotal role in saving them all. The Grand Assembly took place in an open-air amphitheater in Geneva, beneath the actual sky rather than in a sealed chamber as was customary for such gatherings. High Counselor Zorix approached the central podium, his iridescent skin reflecting the natural sunlight in ways that made him appear almost humble. "Today, we honor those who saw what we could not," he began, addressing the assembled representatives and the billions watching via broadcasts across the galaxy. "Those who acted when we would not. Those who saved us all when we did not deserve saving." He turned toward the human delegation. "On behalf of the Galactic Council and all free peoples, I extend our deepest apology to humanity for our failure to heed your warning years ago. Such wisdom and foresight should have been recognized, not dismissed." Maria Delgado, now serving as Earth's senior ambassador, acknowledged the apology with a dignified nod. Furthermore, Zorix continued, "The Council unanimously votes to offer Earth a permanent leadership position among us, with authority equal to founding members." A murmur ran through the crowd. Such an offer was unprecedented. Maria approached the podium. "Earth thanks the Council for this recognition," she said carefully. "However, we believe our place is not as rulers, but as partners. We will join your council as equals, nothing more. Perhaps this crisis has taught us all that no species holds a monopoly on wisdom or courage." As the formal proceedings concluded, a new memorial was unveiled, a simple black obelisk inscribed with the names of all who had given their lives, with special recognition for the crew of the Prometheus and Admiral Robert's sacrifice. A new phrase entered the lexicon of all spacefaring species in the months that followed: "When humans warn you, listen." It was part joke, part solemn acknowledgement of a lesson learned at terrible cost. The universe had ignored humanity once. It never would again.